Early last year, on December 12th, I uploaded a video giving my thoughts and predictions concerning Zack Snyder's upcoming Batman Superman movie. And, it wasn't very well received at first, but now it's about 50-50, so, which is to be expected when it comes to making critiques about beloved cultural icons. I used to be a lot more nerdcore in my youth, so I still occasionally take an interest in these things, making videos and whatnot. Not that I'm so old, but we've come a long way since the 1990s. Geek culture at that time certainly was not as mainstream as it is now. But Hollywood still doesn't get that there's no magic formula for box office success. If it could be said that there is one, it's usually to allow creators to remain as pure as possible to source material, and not let studio execs meddle around in the production of these movies at all. Case in point, Deadpool. When that character was first introduced in Wolverine Origins, which was a crap pile, his mouth was sewn shut and he shot energy blasts from his eyes. The merc with the mouth had his mouth sealed up. Only a studio executive would be stupid enough to do that. Then recently they made an unfiddled with Deadpool movie that was rated R, and surprise, surprise, it did well, and everyone in the industry was shocked. I mean, the headline, Hollywood finally makes a movie the fans have been asking for, and its success is shocking industry insiders. That headline, I think, is all the proof you need to show how clueless these people are. Anyway, Batman vs. Superman was finally released this weekend to much fanfare and high ticket sales, although I watched a Chinese bootleg, so I did not contribute to that 250 million opening weekend. Despite the large draw to theaters, most of the reviewers were harsh, or at best, their reviews were lukewarm. Which, I agree with the sentiment of most of these reviewers, but definitely not the content of their reviews. Naturally, because, they base their opinions on 70s Super Friends reruns, and Adam West Batman, and Richard Donner Superman, which, those things were never... Those particular instances that made huge cultural impacts, they were never really representative of the comic books at all. But that's what these critics base their perspectives on. I'm not even going to go there because I could spend 2 hours just critiquing these critics' critiques. This isn't the Batman I grew up with. Humph. Now I remember a very different Superman. Blah. Shut the fuck up, you 57-year-old man that never read a goddamn comic book in your entire life. Shut the fuck up. Enough about that. Let's get to the meat of this review, shall we? And I should warn everyone now that it will be littered with plenty of spoilers, so listeners beware. So, exactly as I thought and ranted about in my trailer review for Batman vs. Superman, this movie is overly ambitious. Overly ambitious. Like, way more than I even thought it would be. Wholly haphazardly strung together clusterfuck of classic comic storylines. I'm sure I'm even missing some here, but here's a few of the story arcs that I recognized. So you have Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, the New 52 Justice League origin. There were two weird dream sequences at different times in the movie where Bruce Wayne is seeing visions of an alternate timeline that's reminiscent of Flashpoint Paradox, or the Flashpoint story arc. Of course, Frank Miller's iconic The Dark Knight Returns. Batman, Superman, The Girl from Krypton. Some of these were borrowed from a little bit more than others, but you can get the general sense that there's probably a team, but the main guy, David Goyer, he definitely perused through a variety of classic titles as the source of his inspiration for the script. And hilariously, The Death of Superman from 1992. Some of these titles are massively famous and had massive cultural impact at the time when they were released. So to think that they would squeeze all of that into one movie, no matter how long, is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, this is the way I see it. If they're already planning on an extended movie continuity, they should have concentrated more on building a solid universe and less on keeping up with the Marvels. Let's see. So, moving on to characters, as many predicted, as the whole internet predicted, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor wasn't anything memorable. He more or less conjured the same energy he always seems to when he plays eccentric characters. I personally thought that his Lex smelled like a take on the Heath Ledger Joker. It's kind of like quirky. He moves in back and forth between kind of like sort of serious and sadistic and this kind of quirky, over the top, sort of bubbly. I don't know how to describe it, but if you've watched the movie, you'll know exactly what I mean. And to me, that just is very much reminiscent on the take of Heath Ledger's Joker. He honestly seemed more like, he seemed like a Joker character, that type of character, more than any Lex Luthor. Like he almost some incarnations of Riddler or like a Mad Hatter or something more along those lines than he did any kind of Lex Luthor character. Maybe like a very early, like 40s, 50s Lex. Even in the 70s when they were doing Super Friends, Lex Luthor was kind of like over the top and dramatic, but he wasn't like a zany character. So he was very far and away from any Lex Luthor that's been canon for the last 30 years. Wonder Woman, well, I've seen a lot of people, again, a lot of the Twitterverse and various other social networking sites. There's been a lot of clamoring on about Wonder Woman. It's been positive, surprisingly, considering, a lot of the shit that she took. Or a lot of people's fears, I think, because of the casting choice. Which, honestly, I like the Gal Gadot aesthetic overall. Like, I like her exotic look. Sort of exotic. It's definitely, I think it lends itself to a live-action Wonder Woman well. But for me, it's always been just her lack of muscle mass that bothers me the most. So that aside, I admit, from watching this movie, Wonder Woman definitely makes me look forward to a standalone Wonder Woman movie. She was really the only character in this movie you feel genuinely intrigued by. Whenever she was on screen, you're like, ooh, I'd like to see a little bit more about this character. And they don't really go too deep into it, but she does play a sort of not major role, but she's definitely like front and center stage. So they've piqued my interest with her, and I don't want to go so far as to say I'm excited, but I'm interested in seeing where they take her and where it goes. I think her standalone movie might be better than this. Better than the Batman Superman movie. Superman. No. Superman's pretty stale in 2D. He's a difficult character to work with. Very few writers really get him. Jeff Loeb is one of the few notable writers that comes to mind. Paul Dini writes a great Superman. Otherwise, he's tough. He's like Goku, When you have a near godlike character, how do you stop him from getting boring? How do you stop someone who can just... It's almost like Felix the Cat, No matter what the problem, there's always something in the bag to get you out of it. So you can just conjure up any power. It starts to become monotonous. I know Dave Goyer penned the script for this movie, and frankly, I wish they would stop hiring him for these things. I know he's written some stuff for comic titles like Ghost Rider, but as a self-confessed comic nut, so he says. That's what I think is on Wikipedia. I read that on. That he's because I know I looked up some things about him when I did one of my last videos on this topic, because his name shows up everywhere in regards to superhero movies, live action movies, even Disney Marvel. So for a comic nut or whatever, he, in my opinion, he just doesn't get these characters because he's been consistently writing some of these people just very wrong. He wrote all the Chris Nolan Batman movies, and he did the same thing with those that he did with Batman and Superman. He makes Batman emo. Batman is not emo. He doesn't doubt his motives. He never questions his mission in life. That is not Batman. That's movie protagonist fodder. That's what that is. Stop. Stop writing cliche tropes into superhero movies, man. Stop doing that. Speaking of Batman, and this really irks me, Batman is basically Sherlock Holmes the ninja. Alright? Batman is not, a rich guy that dresses up as a bat and indiscriminately beats up gutter punks. That's not Batman. It's part of the total Batman package, but it's a really small part, actually. If it could be said that Batman has any special powers, it's that Batman is a genius. He was ranked, I think, number 3 smartest person in the DCU. That's huge. I think Braniac is number 1. Lex Luthor, I don't know, maybe, I think Lex Luthor was number 3. Or Batman could have been number 4, actually. He's on the top 5 because I think Mr. Terrific is number 4. Anyway, that nuance is completely lost on Hollywood scriptwriters. And if I'm being completely honest, the general public as well. Because, let me say this again. Batman is a detective. Batman is a detective. Like Sherlock Holmes is a detective. Ra's al Ghul famously refers to him as detective. Batman's mind is his greatest asset. Not his gadgets, nor his martial arts skills, nor his money, nor even Alfred for that matter. Although all these things contribute, to Batman, but if you were going to really strip Batman down, certainly in the comics, in all the best comics and all the classic story arcs, where people say that what is the essence of Batman? And if you were to reduce it down, you would definitely see this kind of underlying consistency to who he is as a person. And I think his ingenuity, his ability to problem solve, his ability to see, to outwit some of the smartest guys and to make pieces fit where nobody else can see those pieces fit. Novel thinking. Like, that's Batman. Yeah, Batman is a genius. Not like Kanye West is a genius. A real genius. At one point during the movie, Bruce Wayne is snooping around Lex Luthor's place, looking for info on metahumans and, a possible way to defeat Superman. And he's so comically outwitted by Wonder Woman. It's so ridiculous. At one point, there's a scene where they're at a party. It's like a gala that he's been invited to. At one point, they were trying to decide, like, how am I going to get into Lex Luthor's place? Because we've discovered that the White Portuguese is a ship. And on that ship, they have a special mineral, which is kryptonite, but I'm not sure that they name it kryptonite in the movie. And it's somehow they know, I think, through testing it on, if I recall, through testing it on General Zod's corpse or whatever, that it's poisonous to Kryptonians. So he's trying to get this stuff, and he's like, well, it's in Lex's place at this point. How do we get it? And I guess he's going to go in as Batman, but then he decides, you know what? We don't have to go in as Batman because Alfred shows him an invitation to a gala/event party, whatever. And he's going there for intelligence gathering, and he's got like a little gadget. It's like a smartphone that can hack supercomputers. And he's walking in plain sight. He's walking in plain sight of everyone at this big gala and places that smartphone scanner thing on a glass doorway that can wirelessly tap computers somewhere. And Wonder Woman, just strolls up behind him and takes the fucking thing. Like, come on! Why, you can't write a better thing than that. That, imagine you're walking through somewhere and you just, like, oh, I'll just leave this smartphone sitting here And someone like anybody would take that. It doesn't take, another superhero. I don't know. It was kind of silly to me. Which, I don't know. As far as like the metahuman stuff and intelligence gathering, I wanted to say that I think they had a great opportunity here. They could have brought in the whole Cadmus story arc and worked in Amanda Waller somehow, to make it more consistent, but they didn't do that. Which I find weird considering this was a lead up to a Justice League movie and Suicide Squad is a tie-in movie for Batman, which does feature Amanda Waller. I don't know. They aren't thinking broadly enough on this, in my opinion. The whole time you just get the sense that, they're just lazily tumbling from scene to scene. It's long. It's cumbersome. Things just kind of happen. I think the effect that they were going for is that Lex was this architect of, a Machiavellian master plan to kill Superman. And Batman was just a unwitting pawn, but it just makes Batman look like a stupid brute and Superman like a spoiled 15-year-old caught between his mom and his girlfriend. It's so... I don't know. It's so lazily written, in my opinion. It just doesn't work. Then there's the big fight, of course, between Batman and Superman. It doesn't last very long. It's a 2.5-hour movie, almost 3-hour movie, something like that. And the build-up is awkward, and then they finally fight, and the fight is awkward. And the big fight only happens because Lex Luthor kidnaps Martha Kent. How does he know who Martha Kent is? Well, he went to the crashed Kryptonian ship, and the Kryptonian ship taught him everything about everything, including Superman's secret Clark Kent identity, and uses her as bait to get Superman to fight Batman. Something Batman would never do, I don't think, under those circumstances. And you look at all the times that they've come to blows in comics. Batman is a strategist. Again, to go back to the fact that Batman is a genius. He's not going to purposely throw himself in harm's way. It's like, no, I'm doing this as a principled position because I'm a representative of Earth and I'm a man, and it's men versus alien gods. It was so silly. Like this sentiment, this tone that they tried to create. I don't know. I didn't think it worked. So anyway, Batman treats Superman like he's an obnoxious coworker. The attitude. It's like he treats him like he's a coworker. That's what he treats him like. Like he's an obnoxious coworker that stole his lunch, that steals his lunch every day out of the break room. And it's so silly. It doesn't feel right. The energy is not there. And then they fight, and the fight is awkward again. And it only lasts, it's like, maybe it's a 5-minute scene. It's really not that long. And then Batman uses several kryptonite weapons, which... you don't really get a sense of how he knows how to develop the shit, but he does, And then, so he uses these weapons. He has no idea how lethal they are. You don't really get a sense that. And I know some people write Batman differently, but typically he's a non-kill type of person. But even if they were trying to go for this sort of like, I'll make an exception this time, because. It's kind of dark, and you kind of get the sense that the way that Batman treats villains in this movie is he brands them with one of his batarangs. How he heats it up to do it, I don't know, but he'll brand a criminal, and then once they get arrested and they're in jail, if other inmates see that bat brand, like, oh man, you got nabbed by the bat. They sometimes inmates will kill other prisoners because I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really. I guess they associate him with Batman, and then they get killed in prison. I don't know. It's weird. And Batman knows this is going on, but he's doing it. So, and they try to use that also as a plot point to kind of build up animosity because it's actually Superman who's, the Boy Scout, which, they're both Boy Scouts if you really look at it. I mean, they're both vigilantes. Neither of them operate within the law, but... neither of them are really principled as far as unilateral, implementation of the criminal justice, codes. But anyway, so Superman and they fight. What was I saying? Something about, so he doesn't know how lethal these weapons are. and he's using them, and they're fighting, blah blah blah. And then right before, so Batman gets the upper hand, and then he hits him with a dart, a la Frank Miller. That whole the Green Arrows, like the powdered kryptonite dust to the face. He hits him with several of those actually, and that weakens them. And then they rough each other up a little bit, but you can see that kryptonite is affecting Superman, and it's weakening him. And then Batman at some point, is beating the hell out of him, which is really funny. He's got this ultra, megatanium suit. And what does he use, for the coup de grace blow? He uses a fucking kitchen sink. Or not a kitchen sink. It was like a public bathroom sink. Porcelain. And he smashes it over his head. Like, come on, dude. And then just a little while after that, they fight Doomsday, who's, and punching him. And he gets hit by, so Doomsday gets, hold on, let me go back. So, then Lois comes in to save the day, and they kiss and make up, because they're superheroes. They weren't ever going to kill each other. And Lois comes in, she's like, guys, don't do this. The reason why he's fighting you is because Lex Luthor kidnapped his mom, and his mom, both of them, both their mother's name is Martha, so Batman's like, huh? Martha? That was my mommy's name. And then they make friends, and then, Lex Luthor unveils Doomsday, and so they have to fight Doomsday. And, if you've watched the trailer, you've seen all of this. And then Wonder Woman comes in to save Batman's ass. And, they're all fighting Doomsday, and then they find out, basically, only kryptonite can kill this thing. Doomsday... At one point, Superman and Doomsday are fighting, and Superman takes them up into space to battle. And the U.S. government's like, fuck these aliens. And so they launch a nuclear strike. And the nuclear strike only makes Doomsday stronger. And, so then they fight, and there was like a krypton, or a kryptonite spear. So there's this kryptonite spear. It's one of the only things left of Batman's, kryptonite arsenal. And Superman uses it to, stab Doomsday through the heart, and something happens where they both die, because it's like a big, they basically kill each other. It's the death of Superman 1992 story arc is what it is. I mean, there's so many classic kind of scenes where they took a bunch of great ideas that are classic and iconic, and they tried to haphazardly, again, stitch it together in just a really awkward manner, and it doesn't work. It doesn't flow. It doesn't flow at all. So, Superman sacrifices himself to save the world from Doomsday, and then they're at Superman's funeral. That is Batman and Wonder Woman. They're at everybody's at Superman's funeral, obviously, and Batman tells Wonder Woman, we have to form a Justice League, basically. And, of course, we know Superman isn't dead. It's so fucking absurd that they would even play so many trump cards in one movie, especially since it's the first in a series of Justice League movies. We know this. Everybody knows this. This is public knowledge. The studio's already released the timeline. I mean, and then Suicide Squad movies, Batman standalone movies, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash is also, actually at one point, with the information and how Lex Luthor knows all this, I have no idea. But Wonder Woman eventually gives him back his drive with all the encrypted, Lex Luthor metahuman secrets, and so you actually get a glimpse of all these other superhero. There's like cameos. I guess you can call them cameos. So then, that's it. I don't want to ramble on about this anymore because I'm starting to just drone. I had some talking points and now I've just lost it. Anyway, I don't know if this is going to work. I mean, I don't get what they're doing here, but it seems like they're going to make more money, so I guess they'll keep churning these things out, and that's the end of it.